Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tell Me Why, a short, sharp podcast for busy Beatles people on the go who want to be in the know. In about 20 minutes, or give or take a little bit, we try to keep you informed about things that are going on in the Beatles world, and today is no exception. We have a wonderful show for you because in the summer of 2025, I was asked to preview a book that was coming out for the holidays. And I couldn't have been more excited about it. It is extraordinary. It is very unique. It is a book of poetry, and it is written by a man who is a new face to the Beatles world, but absolutely not a new face to the world of poetry. In fact, he and I were chatting before the show, and he told me that he has published over 40 other poems that have absolutely nothing to do with the Beatles. And he has written for Ink in Thirds and the Louisville Review, Poetry Quarterly, and the Evening Street Press. Very distinguished, notable publications. But he took on a new role in 2025, and that is that of a freedom fighter, kind of like John Lennon himself in his war for Irish independence. He found a group of people who had never been given a voice and gave them the opportunity to speak out for themselves. And these people are, in fact, the characters in the Beatles' poems. People like, well, Maxwell and Vera, Chuck, and Dave, and you get the picture. So the Beatles told their story, but is that the real story? And what's the story behind the story? And he gave them a chance to speak. It was so unique and so um, insightful that Beatlefan reviewed it in the current issue. And Kathy Urbanic, who did the review, had this to say about it. Some of Bradley's poems are lighthearted. The verse about the paperback writer, for instance, ends with a pointed punchline. Others are poignant, such as the pair of verses written from the perspectives of Eleanor Rigby and Father Mackenzie. Imagining All the People, which is the title of this wonderful book, Imagining All the People is a charming collection that includes attractive sketches, indices that organize the poems by their chronology of songs and by theme, and suggested topics for discussion, inviting the use by educators. Fans should find much to enjoy in this thoughtfully creative volume. So it is my great honor to welcome to the show the poet, Marcus Ray Benjamin Bradley. Mark, welcome to Tell Me Why.
Thank you very much for having me on. I'm honored.
Did I get your name order correct?
Marcus Benjamin Ray Bradley.
Ray comes last. Marcus Benjamin Ray Bradley. That is a good Southern name. And tell us about where you are and what you're doing other than writing, Imagining All the People. You're in Kentucky, right?
Sure, I'm in Kentucky. I'm in Versailles, Kentucky, not Versailles, Versailles, um, just outside of Lexington, where I work at the University of Kentucky. So I work in the information technology department. So I'm not a poet full time. I mean, who is? So this is just something I do for fun, and it turned into all of this. So um, when I started working at the university, you can take classes for free, so many a semester. And I took a creative writing poetry class, and I just really fell in love with it. And I can talk forever about this, so I can.
Tell us about the concept. How did you come up with this idea of liberating these people and letting them think for themselves, as it were?
Sure. So one of the books I read as part of that class was persona poems. Um, and it happened to be about a civil rights leader. Um, the the perspective of his wife, of his assassin, of his assassin's wife, of the bullet itself, right? And all this gave a kind of a 360 view of the topic, and I really liked that. I've read a few other persona poems, types of books, and I thought that would be a great thing to, instead of writing about just all these random thoughts and family experiences and so on, to have a collection on a theme. And I took a long time to think about what would keep my interest for that long, to write 30, 40, 50 poems. And it finally hit me, the Beatles.
Yeah.
Um, Something I've loved since a teenager, and as it turns out, hasn't necessarily really been done before.
No, has absolutely not been done before. And it's really exciting because you have some interesting reveals because as we all know, and this may be one of the poems that you're reading, uh, John Lennon wrote Sexy Sadie about the Maharishi, and he even called it Maharishi. And George Harrison came to him and said, "Hey, man, please don't do this. It's so disrespectful. Could you just not say Maharishi in this poem?" And he changed it to Sexy Sadie. But you find out when you read this poem, John may not have known who he really was writing about because it's not the Maharishi in the poem, and it is
That
just wonderful surprise, a wonderful surprise.
that one in particular, someone asked me about Jude.
Yeah,
We know that Jude's about Julian, but the poem's not about. It's about a teenage boy with a crush on a girl,
yeah,
because the lyrics don't necessarily say anything different. You can interpret it that way as well. So it's about teenage crush.
right,
And Martha, My Dear isn't about a dog.
right.
It's about an artist.
Yeah.
So
Guys,
it
you have some interesting and fun and thought-provoking reading ahead of you. Kathy Urbanic is absolutely right. So it is just so enjoyable. Well, now I'm going to make an assumption, and you can tell me if I'm right or not. But John Lennon once famously said to David Sheff in the Playboy interviews, John writes about Paul writes about other things, but I write about myself. And I know from my years of studying John and his writing that he tells you the same story over and over. He's so much like Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Ancient Mariner. He grabs you by the arm and he holds you and he tells you this same story of this little boy who loved his mom, but his mom didn't necessarily, so he thought, love him or want him. And he tells the story over and over and over and how he has this chip on his shoulder and what's going on with him. But Paul does tell you stories. He tells you lots of stories. So are most of the poems from the brain of McCartney? Are they his characters, or do you try to have a widespread selection?
That's a great question, because it was very unconscious about which songs I wrote about. I had a list of characters and would just try one here and there. As it turns out, most of them, probably what, three-fourths of them are Paul songs. Very much because of what you said. He writes about other people. John and George only wrote about themselves. Um, so a lot of Eleanor Rigby, Maxwell. There's a handful of John, but I think of it too because not only for that reason, less characters, character names, and so on. But a lot of John's stuff is so poetic anyway. If you think about All You Need Is Love, Strawberry Fields, I mean, what could I possibly do with that? So I would take something like The Nurse from Penny Lane, Father Mackenzie, where Paul would just throw it out there and just not say a lot more about it. So there's anywhere you could go with it,
Yeah.
um, and take it a direction I thought it needed to go.
Well, give us some good examples. If you don't mind, would you read us a couple of poems?
Yes, indeed. I've got the way the book works, Jude, as you know. We did a synopsis before each poem about the character, which is basically what I could draw out of the lyrics. So it hopefully informs the next page, which is the poem.
Okay.
So this one is a John song. This is Sexy Sadie, since you set it up for me. Sexy Sadie, we've all known someone like Sadie. She was the type of girl everyone loved to be around, and she knew it. Everyone wanted to sit at her table, eager for even just a smile. But as is so often the case, Sadie made fools of them all. One would think it would catch up with her one day. This poem is called The Greatest of Them All. I realized at a young age that I was attractive when I was in a crowd and quite noticeably on the receiving end of the most pleasantries, especially those extended by eager young men. But pretty and sexy are two different things, complementing each other like wine and cheese to boost the overall experience to new heights. I made a conscious effort to understand this, carefully introducing the slightest adjustments and scientifically observing the reactions of males, honing my techniques for maximum influence. They would hold doors and elevators for me so they could drink in my smile, skin, and scent. I could see their imaginations take the wheel when stares lasted long enough to be too long. I began knowingly exploiting my sharpened allure to be surprised by fancy gifts, drinks, and dinners, getting out of speeding tickets and parking violations, escalating into a personal challenge of finding out the biggest transgressions I could walk away from. They craved being near me and winning my favor so I could pull on their strings with just a gesture. Breaking the rules quickly became a familiarity. Knowing I would not be confronted by authority or disciplined at all if caught red-handed, eventually leading to a feeling that few can name, which is that the rules do not apply to me at all.
And you know what? I don't think John Lennon would think that was far afield from what he was saying about Maharishi.
I can get away with it.
Yeah, I mean it works. If you think about what he was angry about, why he was leaving Rishikesh, and he felt that Maharishi was using his power to manipulate people to do what he wanted, and so is she.
Exactly.
So I love that. That is, oh gosh, so good, so good. All right, give us another one.
Okay. Um, at Melissa's suggestion, she thought I should read When I'm 64 has four poems, Vera, Chuck, Dave, and then the granddad. And it kind of feels to me it's kind of the heart of the book in a way, um, because you take one line from a song. Um, that that's all I had to go on was Vera, Chuck, and Dave, grandchildren on your knee. Um, so to speculate on what those children were like or their relationship with each other and their granddad, uh, I thought was extremely interesting. So let me scroll up to the synopsis. When I'm 64, a man speculates about his life in the far distant future. What will life be like when he's in his mid 60s? Specifically, when he's 64 years old? Will he lose his hair? Will he still be with the love of his life? Will they even get along? He even imagines grandchildren, Vera, Chuck, and Dave. This is from the point of view of Dave. Um, this is called Quibbling Rivalry. Watching my brother and sister battle with no armistice signing on the horizon, just more tit for tat until it seems to be fighting for the sake of it. Fight, fight, fight. Feuds drag on until everyone has lost sight of when or why they even began and are left with just the notion that the other must be made more miserable. On the day he first held the next one, I know his love wasn't halved, but doubled. I wish they could realize that he, like God, has enough love for every single one of us.
Man, that's a commentary for our age. You know, that there's a lot to say about what's going on in society right now. That is so good. And I mean, I love it, fighting just for the sake of it. And, and everybody loses. Everybody loses. So, wow, really, really good. Well, you absolutely made phenomenal choices. I want to hold this up, see if I can get it. Okay, so there is the cover art, try to get the glare off of it. Very John Lennon-esque, not quite as simple a line drawing, and yet a line drawing with that spirit in mind. And the cover quote on the back, there's Mark's picture, is from the one, the only Kenneth Womack, our buddy, one of the most respected scholars in the Beatles world, prolific writer and very respected, which another phenomenal choice. This is a hardbound book, a luxury, which we all treasure. And the layout of the book is beautiful. There is a sketch and the introduction before. I hope I'm putting this so you can see it. Yeah, before every poem, and then the poem itself. And then this marvelous, marvelous forward for the book. I started underlining things in the forward. Then I discovered I was underlining the whole entire forward. And so tell us about who did each one of these things.
Yeah, we assembled a great team. Of course, Melissa Davis from the Beatles Limited, the Beatle Works Limited, um, is who I submitted this to, and I heard from her within a couple of days. Um, and then we had a phone call, and she explained that this is quite unique, surprisingly to me. Um, we we tried out a couple of artists, auditioned them, so to speak. Um, and I said, my sister-in-law is a really good painter, um, Carrie Heimlich from Ohio, and she does horses and pets and animals. So she said, well, let her do Henry the horse and Martha, the sheepdog. And I sent her those to sketch out. And when we got those back, Melissa said she's doing the whole cover. Like, these are phenomenal. Well, Carrie's not necessarily a Beatles fan, so we had to spoon feed her every little thing. Um, so we sent her, I think it was 16 pages of notes about, for example, Sexy Sadie. We said, well, we don't want it to be, Margot Robbie or Angelina Jolie. We want it to be who was sexy in 1966. So we sent her Anita Ekberg and Sophia Loren, and pictures of different priests for Father Mackenzie. And she really got it done, as you can see on the cover. Just hand drawn. She did them very quickly because they are line drawings, but it's more so than that. There's quite a bit of detail in there. Um, and then we had Ron Donnelly is our graphic designer. He took all those, scanned them in, and made all these collages, and sent various versions of those for the front and back cover. Um, Jeremy Herman, J. Elvis Herman, did our compositing for the print and ebook. Um, and let's see, I had a local photographer here in Versailles, Kentucky, take the picture for the back. So quite a team that I hope we can put back together one of these days for another one.
Yeah, it really is a strong, strong team. I'm going to just read you guys a short snippet of the foreword, which was written by Melissa Davis. And gosh, this is just, it's so good. Just listen to this. And there were the girls. Several women with an indeterminate way of earning a living, a runaway, a few unfaithful girls, an ambitious girl making it big in Hollywood, a con woman, or so we thought, a spinster, Mary, a duchess, a queen, the queen, and animals, a performing horse, a naughty dog, a litter of piggies, a menagerie of squawking, honking, barking, roaring, chirping, crowing, neighing, meowing, baying, oinking, screeching, a walrus. Isn't that amazing? It is so beautifully, beautifully written. And the book is just a work of art from the moment you pick it up until the moment you come to its conclusion. Just a beautiful work of art. So, would you share a couple more with us?
I would love to. This one's probably my favorite. It was the last one I wrote. These, by the way, except for one, as you've read, were presented in the way in the order they were written. When I finished this one, I knew the book was done. It just felt right. This one's from Eleanor Rigby. This is Father Mackenzie. And the synopsis goes like this. Father Mackenzie is the vicar at a church where the parishioners, for whatever reason, no longer attend, whether for regular Sunday services or funerals. Resigned, he carries on, performing his duties religiously. The poem is called Redeemer. One must have a deep understanding of the rules to tell others how to live, at least while we're here. The title of vicar in the Church of England is only awarded after much study and training, and comes with it many roles and responsibilities. My services are open to any and all visitors. I'm always ready to welcome a new believer. But my church-going flock have all vanished, like so many artifacts mentioned in the Bible, to the point that I worry about humankind. Some, no doubt, wonder why I carry on, dutifully crafting sermon soliloquies, singing hymns that find no ears to reach, continuing the call I committed to live for, with a church as empty as Christ's tomb. If someone asked why I persist, I would quell their concerns thusly. It is simply because I would know that I was not devoting myself fully to our Father who art in heaven. I believe it a sin to crave worldly respect, so I must be both patient and humble. Mother Teresa said the only way to learn humility is by being humiliated. I thank the Lord for teaching it so well.
That's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. And of course, I'm sure you're aware of Mother Teresa's truth, sad truth, that she never heard from God. She said other people have, they hear from God all the time. I never hear from him. And that is, there's Father Mackenzie. I'm going to stay the course. I may not have people listening. There may be no one out there. I'm going to do it anyway. That is, I love, love, love that. Love it.
I've heard, you can tell me if this is true or not, but some people have given me some feedback that they think about the songs differently, or at least that verse or two of Father Mackenzie, that it just we've heard them so many times. We've listened to them for decades, and then if you can hear it in a different way or get other ideas out of the of what you're hearing is pretty special.
It is. And I don't want to, which one are you doing next? And if it's not the one I'm getting ready to talk about, I'll tell you the one that changed for me.
Well, um, it's not going to be this one. Melissa thought I should do Henry the Horse.
That's the one I was just
Oh, are
getting
you
ready to talk
kidding?
about. That's the one. Yes, you changed this for me forever because there's a big consideration that we probably never thought about before. Go ahead and then we'll talk about it afterwards. Yes, go ahead.
That's hilarious. Okay, great. That's so funny. This is being for the benefit of Mr. Kite about Henry the Horse. And the synopsis is, although the celebrated Mr. Kite, whose many spectacular acrobatic feats are recounted as being featured in the upcoming performance of Pablo Fanca's traveling circus, it is Henry the Horse who may actually steal the show. Mr. Kite may do somersaults through a ring of fire, but it's hard to imagine anything topping Henry the Horse's dancing the waltz, which, with its moderately fast triple meter, could be presumed to be especially challenging for a four-legged hoofed animal weighing 1,000 pounds. This particular performance was advertised as a benefit for Mr. Kite. This poem is called Hoofing It. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just like the rings of a circus, where everyone's eyes are, of course, only on me. The incentive to get down to this trilogy of notes is quite literally the carrot. The tune's time signature has fewer beats per measure than I have prancing hooves.
That's it. That is it. How does this? I mean, it makes me giggle. I start thinking about it and I think, one, two, one, two, how is he keeping up? And it's fast and it gets faster and faster and the music is swirling. And here is this gigantic horse having to do the waltz with his four rather large legs. It just, oh my goodness, it changed everything for me. I'll never hear that song again. So, uh,
I looked up a bunch of circus horses. They've got the feathers, they've got the lace and the braids. And of course, Henry thinks, well, they're all here for me. You know, I don't care what the rest of the show is. They came for me.
yeah.
And just the and the poem itself is I'm sure you noticed the waltz is 3/3 timing, so the stanzas are 3/3 and 3, and they literally dance across the page on the print edition. So
Well, I cannot recommend to all of you out there enough that you purchase your very own copy of Imagining All the People and get a copy for a friend as well. This is a perfect birthday gift, Mother's Day gift. Um, St. Patrick's Day gift. There you go. Get St. Patty's Day and Valentine's Day in there because John, as you know, was very Irish. He is Oleanan originally and bought the Isle of Dornish in off the coast of Ireland and actually was going to retire there. And so St. Patty's Day is the perfect opportunity. But this is you will love it. I bought three copies, one for me and one for a gift, and one that we gave as a prize on Focal Points recently in December. And I'll be buying more. So get in there before I scoop them all up. Where can people get this book, Mark?
The press is bookbaby.com at their bookshop. But as we know, most people shop at Amazon. It is also available there and other resellers like that.
And while
But
you're
it's
buying books, we also recommend another book that Kathy Urbanic was so sweet to review in this same issue. Mark and I get to share the review page, but this is Some Forever, which is volume 5.1 in the John Lennon series, the end of 1965. We're just about sold out. We have a box and a half of books left, and that is it. And I am so appreciative to everybody for making that happen. Now, full disclosure, I am saving two boxes of books. Mark Lapidos has them, and we are holding Mark to his word that we are going to have a fest in 2027. And I am saving my books for that fest and already counting the days until the fest is back again. So we will have some there. So, Mark, we end every show with the same question, and that is, what's your favorite John Lennon quote? It can be from the lyrics, it can be something he wrote in one of his books that you see behind me. It can be just something he said.
I've thought about this a lot because we've been emailing. It's funny, the quote that I thought of came from a book called Tell Me Why. I don't know if you've read this one. That was one of the first or second Beatles book I read when I was much, much younger. And you'll have to help me out on this to get it correct. But when he was explaining the line from Strawberry Fields, no one I think is in my tree. I mean, it must be high or low. When he went, I'm listening to top 40 radio. I'm a kid, Guns N' Roses, whatever. And then I hear this and try to understand what he meant. You'll know the quote better than I do, but it's no one seems to be on the same wavelength as I do. So either I'm crazy or I'm a genius.
Yeah.
And, as a young person, to realize that he said that, but he meant that, maybe that's the beginning of all this poetry nonsense that I've been up to because that blew my mind then and now. That was a song, that he put that much thought and meaning into so few words.
Yeah, he could pack a wall up in just a very just one image, just a couple of words, and it's something that you'll never forget. I can never read that or hear it sung without picturing like a Christopher Robin character alone on a branch and everybody else, Piglet and Pooh and Eeyore and all the other characters are happy and chatting and together. And alone sits this little boy who is blessed by being a genius, but is also cursed by being a genius. And he's so alone. And no one ever really does understand him or what he's going through or what he suffered. And yeah, I think Cynthia comes the closest to understanding, but most people just, Of course, Stu Sutcliffe definitely understood, but therein lies the tragedy of the loss of Stu. So you just have captured the emotions in so many of our favorite songs, and you've given life to people Vera, Chuck, and Dave, who never were allowed to speak. The nurse with the poppies in a tray, the Bungalow Bill. There's so many characters who get to tell you their story, not necessarily the story that the Beatles designated for them, but their story. And thank you, Mark. Thank you so much.
I'm extremely gratified that you like it. As a Beatle person, right? There's poetry people, Beatles people. Um, the poems can be read standalone without the Beatles context, but it's so much more fun if you're a Beatles fan and get right because they're not about how they came to the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, it's not about the Beatles at all. It's about these people and what might be behind that. In which case, I could take it anywhere, and did. Um, but each one of them wanted to make sure there was a point or a message or an idea behind it that we can get to from what we know about the characters, which is oftentimes very little from the lyrics themselves.
That's right. That's right. Well, it is a gorgeous book, and it is one that everybody will enjoy, all ages, and you can take it on different levels. And so I urge you all to get out there and purchase a copy. And we thank you for joining us this evening. Mark and I are, this is in historically, if you're listening to this on Beatlesorama Radio a couple of months from now, we are creating this show during Ice Mageddon. Everything is frozen. Everyone is snowed in. We have no water in this household, and it has been a very eerie and quiet time. Best time in the world to grab a good book, like Imagining All the People. Make yourself a cuppa, hunker down, and just enjoy. Thank you for being here, Mark. We appreciate it so much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, everybody. And this is Jude Southerland Kessler with the John Lennon series saying, ta and shine on.